Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast, and we're going to have a look at another beer from a brewery that has featured on the channel a couple of times before, and I've had some really nice beers from these guys actually. But this one is quite interesting because it's also a collaboration between three homebrewers who we will talk a little bit about as well actually. So for the main brewery in this one then, we are going to go to the Hisingen area in Gothenburg and we're having a look at another beer from Morgondagens. So this particular beer is called Jean Claude Van Gott. It comes in at 6.9% ABV and this one is a New England hazy style IPA. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. The three home breweries involved in this one are the Automagiskt Bryggeri, Sestervikens Bryggeri and also Åbergs Brygder as well actually. So yeah, this one I think could be quite interesting. This was released on the 1st of November 2020 as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. As I've said to you before, I've had a number of good beers from Morgondagens over the last little while. Mainly it's been the big kind of fruity Berliner Weisses and Goses I think that I've had from Morgondagens actually, but they're a really interesting brewery and one that I would recommend you check out if you are interested in Gothenburg craft beer. But the three home breweries involved in this one, this is my very first encounter with them. So yeah, curious to see what this beer has in store for us, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's see how we got on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Morgondagens Bryggeri. I think this is review number 6 or 7 or so that I've done from them, and you will no doubt see more in the fairly near future. I'll also put the links down there to the Instagram accounts of the Automagiskt Bryggeri, Sestervikens Bryggeri and Åbergs Brygder. These guys of course are very small, so their main kind of media, if you like I guess, would be their Instagram accounts, so you'll find those down there as well. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Morgondagens then, on to my brewery notes. So Morgondagens, as I've told you before, was founded by Jonas Gustafsson and Jenny Nilsson. So the pair had lived in Ingarö outside of Stockholm, and they brewed together at home before moving over to the west coast back in 2017. Then they were based in Hamburgsund and they had the Morgondagens Ekologiska Ölkaffe where they brewed their beers, and it also acted as a sort of kind of tap room of sorts as well. But this building had been a pizzeria before, and they set up a small brewery of 200 litres, and they became known for adding lots of different kind of ingredients to their beers. So they opened up the beer cafe during the summer months, which was also known for pizzas and sandwiches and things like that, and this proved really popular amongst the locals. And then they got their beers into Systembolaget locally, and then also into Vinmonopolet up in Norway. But they sold this original premises in 2018, and then they began brewing their beers at Popel's Brewery for a period of time, but they now have their own brewery in the Hisingen area in Gothenburg city, and they've got a 2,000 litre brew kit there and an initial 30,000 litre fermentation capacity, but I think that has been expanded actually. But they were planning to start opening up this brewery in 2020. And they were hoping to have a bar on site, but I don't think that's happened yet, unfortunately, just because of the whole COVID-19 situation, if you like. But they've also got a collaboration brewery with, or collaboration beer brand, I guess you could say, with Mikrofon Bryggeriet, now known as Duck Pond Brewing, of course, and this is called Wizard Brewing. But as of December 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 110, I think it was, 110 or so different beers under the Morgondagens brand. But yeah, as I said, this brewery, I would say, I would always, if someone said to me Morgondagens, I would probably tend to think of the big kind of fruity Berliner Weisses and Goses and things like that. That's probably what this brewery are most known for. But in that category they are very capable. But I haven't had too many different beers from them, come to think of it. So I will need to see about reviewing a few different styles from them, if that is indeed possible actually. There's quite a few breweries these days are sticking to mainly one kind of thing, and like I say, Morgondagens, in my experience, I would always think mainly of the big fruity sours actually. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Morgondagens Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the home breweries then. So like I said to you, there are 3 home breweries involved in this one. So first off, there is the Automagiskt Bryggeri, which is based in Hägersten over in Stockholm, and this is run by Tobias Janjes apparently. The next one is Sestervikens Bryggeri, which is from Sesterviken, just a little bit to the north of Gothenburg, and this is run by Lars Urban. And then there's also Åbergs Brygder, which is based in Ljungskile to the north of Gothenburg, and this is run by Erik Åberg. So yeah, those are the 3 home brewers that were involved in this one actually. They seem to be very well respected on the kind of homebrew circuit, so I'm guessing that that's how this kind of collaboration came about, if you like. I couldn't really find anything that told a kind of wider story about the beer, if you like. But yeah, as I say, 3 very well respected home brewers. There's lots of different home brewing competitions, so I'm guessing that at some stage maybe we will, pardon me, I'm guessing that at some, I don't know what happened there, I'm guessing that at some stage maybe we will be able to review some beers from Automagiskt, Sestervikens and Åbergs at some point. It'd be quite cool to be able to do that for you, review some more homebrew on the channel at some stage, so maybe we can make that happen. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about these 3 breweries. There wasn't too much information available on them. Maybe if we get some beers from these guys I can contact them and get more information about the people behind the breweries at a later date. But in the meantime, you can find the Instagram accounts for all 3 of these breweries in the video description below as well, so make sure you check them out, give them a follow and things like that, and see what they're doing. All 3 of the accounts actually looked kind of quite interesting actually. But yeah, that's all I can tell you about them, and yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So from what I gather, this one is a 6.9% New England Hazy IPA. It's hopped with Racal, Citra and Nelson Sauvin. So Racal and Nelson Sauvin, of course, New Zealand hops. Citra is an American one. Racal, as is the case with a number of New Zealand hops actually, is surprisingly low alpha acid. It's about 7 or 8% alpha acid. Lovely big tropical fruits out of it, what I remember. Lots of different stone fruits and things like that. Citra, we know, is lovely big kind of mango notes with a lot of different tropical fruit complexities and some lemon limey characters as well. And Nelson Sauvin is known for its big kind of soft white green grapey, almost gooseberry like character actually. So yeah, a nice hop bill in this one, a nice kind of New Zealand orientated hop, kind of New England IPA this one I would say. So very much looking forward to this. As you know, if you've watched the channel for any length of time, I'm a huge fan of my New Zealand hops. But yeah, there you can see the artwork on this one is pretty funky, I would say. This beer, of course, is one of these little tall Red Bull type cans, the 330 millilitres, and I think I paid maybe about 35 Swedish kroners for this one, something like that. So yeah, about €3.50, about £3 sterling, and maybe about $4 American, just to give you the price comparison. But yeah, should be a nice beer this one. It's 6.9% New England Hazy IPA. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. Big fan of the New Zealand hops, as I've told you many a time on the channel before. So yeah, there we go. There we are. So yeah, no sediment in the bottom of the can of this one. I was surprised because this had been sitting in the fridge for a little bitty. But yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from a sort of New England Hazy IPA these days, this one has poured, I would say, quite a rich yellow colour. This one is quite akin to what you would expect of a mango juice, for example. But there's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of cream coloured head on this one. Definitely a creamy coloured head rather than a perfect white head. There's 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there. A few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there. I mean, overall, it does look very, very nice, I have to say. So yeah, it does have a little bit of an orange tint to it. In terms of the level of haziness, for a 6.9%er, this one is pretty impressive in that sense. It's, you know, the obvious thing with these New England IPAs when it comes to the colour is dependent on the type of malts that you use and how long the boil is. Most New England IPAs I think are about, you know, 70 to 90 minute boils, and then you've also got the kind of type of malts in there as well. But as you kind of increase the length of the boil in these beers, the sugars caramelise a little bit more and they tend to get a little bit darker as well actually. But yeah, in terms of the level of haze from this one, it's all to do with, it is a bit to do with both the malt based composition, the wheat, the percentage of wheat and oats I guess you could say. But as you go up the alcohol scale, generally speaking, you would expect these beers to get a little bit more hazy because you've got more wheat and oats in the brew. But yeah, for a New England IPA, it looks as you'd expect. It comes across like a very, very nice beer. So fingers crossed this is another good one. And I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. So let's go for it then, guys. Curious about this beer, as I said. Let's look at the aroma. Ooh, that does smell quite nice. So yeah, on the malty side of things, personally, I would say this one's quite well balanced. You've got a nice kind of soft white bready character to this one. You do also get that nice kind of creamy oaty element that you expect of the New England IPA, and you've also got a little bit of a more kind of wheaty, bitey element in there as well, which is really quite interesting. So yeah, it's got a little bit of everything. But the malt base overall, I would say, comes across as being quite smooth. Yeah, the more that I smell of this one, the more oatiness I get out of it. There's a tiny little bit of that. There is a tiny little bit of that kind of butter candy Werther's Original type thing in the middle of the nose too. But yeah, big smooth oats. The oats almost come across as being a little bit sweet. Soft white bread underneath, and then a little bit of a kind of bitey, a little bit of a sort of more bitey, wheaty element to it as well. So I like how that goes together in this one for sure. The malty side of the beer comes across very, very nicely. But yeah, you can smell a little bit of the wheat in this one too, which the wheat I think has a little bit, I'm just starting to get a wee bit of that kind of almost slightly banana-ish note from the wheat in this now. So that's quite interesting. Maybe that's just because I've had the beer sitting a little bit longer actually that I'm starting to get that, because that can happen. But yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of things then, the green component of the beer, yeah, the green component of the beer, I would say there's not really an earthiness to this one. There's maybe a tiny, tiny little bit of it, but it's got a nice floral aromaticity. Not madly spicy, not too pungent in its aromaticity, of course, either. But then you've just got a nice little bit of a kind of juicy, you've got a lot of juicy fruit to this one, but then you've got a bit of a lighter kind of grassy thing there, and there is a wee bit of zestiness coming off this beer. But yeah, the green component for me, the more that I smell of it, the more floral and aromatic it gets, and as I say, it just has a little bit of a kind of lighter, just a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy kind of thing going on in it as well. So I like how that goes together in this one. But on the fruity side of things, if you know these hops, it is kind of what you'd expect. So you do get a wee bit of a kind of pungent passion fruit. That's going to come from both the Racal and the the Citra in this one. There's a lovely kind of soft mango to it, but I think the Racal notes actually come out a little bit more. I mean, it's got quite, for me, there's quite a bit of a soft apricot-y note to this one. That really kind of takes the lead in the beer, to be honest. It's that really soft apricot-y note that comes out of this, which is quite interesting. But then, of course, on the front of the nose, you do get that soft, typical white green grapey thing from Nelson Sauvin. That's a little bit more oily, if you like. Sometimes that can come out a little bit more kind of gooseberry-like, if you want to describe it that way. But for me, it comes across as very kind of juicy, almost. It just comes across as very smooth and juicy, the Nelson Sauvin in this one, actually. So I do like how that goes together in this beer. That gets a thumbs up from me in this one. So well done to... I have to just say well done to Morgondagens and the 3 homebrewers for the aroma of this. This is a very inviting beer with very soft fruits, a little bit of oiliness from the Nelson Sauvin, like I say, not too much though, but then mainly a kind of soft tropical note out of this one. Racal is actually one of my favourite New Zealand hops, I would say. I wish it was used a little bit more over here in Europe, because it is really quite nice, but I guess it is very expensive, of course. But yeah, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck into it. But we're going to have a taste of this one now. So this one is the Jean Claude Van Gott 6.9% New England or hazy IPA, however you want to call it, hot with Racal, Citra, Nelson Sauvin from Morgondagens Bryggeri in Hisingen and Gothenburg in collaboration with 3 homebrewers, Automagiskt Bryggeri, Sestervikens Bryggeri, and also Åbergs Brygder as well, actually. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. Very curious. Slanja, skål, cheers. Yeah, this one, it's pretty damn solid, I have to say. It goes together really nicely. I mean, the thing is, with these New England hazy IPAs these days, there's so many of them on the market. It's quite, you know, it is quite difficult to sort of distinguish with them at some points. But all you can really ask for is that they're well crafted, and that is what you get from this one. And you know, knowing Morgondagens, I wouldn't expect anything less from them. And there are some real quality homebrew beers out there in Sweden these days. I mean, down here in Skåne, if you go to the Bishop's Arms in Gustav Adolfs Torg, you can get quite a few of the beers from the Minus One, the Minus Ett brewing collective there, and those are basically just slightly larger scale home brews. There's some really top class beers coming out of those little, basically small home breweries in Malmö. So you know, that's the reason why there's about 700 breweries in Sweden these days, and the main reason for that is that the alcohol laws have been so strict, and thus you've had a number of home brewers have started up, and the ones that have done really well have turned commercial. So it's not a surprise that, you know, in this collaboration they've done really well. So I like this one. I love New Zealand hops, so this beer kind of is right up my street, to be honest. But yeah, it's as I say, this one, it doesn't do anything surprising about the style. It's just, you know, really nicely put together. I think that's definitely a fair statement to make about this one. So yeah, let's see. For this beer then, for the malt base, I would say there's a nice little bit of a pale malty quality that just blankets the middle of the tongue there. On top of that, you get a little, on the back third of the palate, there's a nice little bit of a sort of wheaty quality to this one. You do get a little bit of that more kind of bitey wheatiness coming out of the beer. And then yeah, as you move into the wheatiness, I think actually does spread quite a little bit forward in this one, but I think the malt base does lean a little bit more towards the kind of soft bready side of things than I thought it was going to. Yeah, I would stick with that. It definitely leans more towards the kind of barley malt side of things than it does towards the kind of oats or the wheat. The wheat does have a little bit of bitiness to it, and I think the further you go into the aftertaste, you will get a little bit of the oaty smoothness coming out of the beer, and in the centre of your palate you do get a little touch of that Werther's Original kind of thing out of it, but that's very, very minimal, I would say. So yeah, a little bit of oatiness coming out of the beer later on, but mainly barley malt as the base, that sort of soft white bready kind of thing in the middle third of your palate, then a more bitey kind of wheaty quality coming out of this one on the back third of your palate there, but that goes together really quite nicely. So yeah, really like this one. But yeah, I do like how this one goes together in that sense. The malty base is quite nicely done, and it suits the other components of the beer. But yeah, I think we've said all we need to about the malt base, to be quite honest with you. One of the kind of more crisp, slightly, it's almost got a bit of crispness to it in the middle of the palate as well, to be honest with you. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, little touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate, there's a good little bit more kind of floral aromaticity out of this one. It does have a wee touch of spice on the kind of front corners of the palate, but remember, when it comes to exactly what flavours you get from these different hops, it's all about when you add the hops into the boil. I mean, if you add them earlier on in the boil, you're going to get bitterness, but as you add them later and later, you get a trade-off between the kind of bitter side of the beer, and between the bitter side of the hops, and you get the more kind of soft, fruity, kind of juicy things coming out of it. So yeah, that's worth bearing in mind. So yeah. But yeah, you do get a little bit of spice out of this one, which I would surmise is coming from maybe the Citra and the the Citra and the Nelson Sauvin probably. Nelson Sauvin has a hell of a spiciness to it. It's actually a big 16% alpha acid thing, that, which not a lot of people realise because you associate it with these soft kind of white, green, grapey kind of things. Citra's a bit of a beast as well at 13-14%. Raca, like I say, is a bit more of a smaller one at 8%. But I think it can give you a good bit of floral quality as well. But the further you go into the aftertaste, you do get more of a slightly floral spiciness on the kind of front sides of your tongue. But as you go round the front curve of the palate, it's definitely got a little bit of a kind of lighter, grassy thing going on there too. But yeah, bitterness of this beer does build up a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. But let's focus on that fruity component then. So as I always say, on that front third of your palate, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. If you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of a, how would you say, there is a little bit of a kind of more pungent passion fruity quality to the beer. So you've got that in there. And then as you move further forward from that, you start to get more of a kind of mango-y note to it. You've got a little bit of a, you do get a wee bit of a kind of, the mango does have a bit of pungency in this one too, which is quite interesting. So yeah, passion fruit at the back, a little bit of mango, and then you start to get the softer kind of apricot-y type things coming out of the beer as well. But then as you reach that front half of the front third of your tongue, it's all about the Nelson Sauvin, and the white green grapes do come across as a little bit more oily. There is almost a little hint of that gooseberry, that more oily gooseberry flavour than the sort of softer white green grapey kind of thing. So yeah, that's typical of Nelson Sauvin in this one. So these fruity notes in this beer are very nice. I'm also starting to get a little bit of pineapple from the aftertaste as well, and from memory that's something that you will get from Racal actually. So I really like how that goes together. So yeah, this one, the fruity side of this beer, I think is really quite nice. So yeah, it's kind of typical of what you would expect from the New Zealand hops. I've always found the New Zealand hops like quite oily and quite juicy in a lot of ways. So yeah, I do like how this goes together in this one. So, alright guys, sorry about the edit there, but yeah, just to kind of round off the review then, like I was saying, you get the fruity component of this beer is really quite nice. It's got a little bit of that kind of typical New Zealand oiliness to it as well. That starts to come out more when you go into the aftertaste. But I mean, overall, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say that this is quite a, you know, mid-bodied beer. Carbonation is quite smooth in this one. Yeah, carbonation is quite smooth in this. It starts to lean more towards the oily side of the spectrum the further that you go into the aftertaste with it. So it's quite, how would you say, it's it really just, it's got a lovely smoothness to it, and that comes from the malt base, but yeah, the oiliness of this one just kind of develops. It's almost like a little bit of a slickness that you get out of this beer. So yeah, mid-bodied, maybe pushing towards the top end of mid-bodied, smooth carbonation, slight slickness, and in terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this one is your fairly standard 30, maybe 40 IBUs. Yeah, I think this one is, I think it's probably more likely to be 30 IBUs. The malty side of this beer is nice and kind of smooth in a lot of ways. Like I said, it does have a wee tiny bit of sweetness to it, but I would describe the malt base of this beer as being quite smooth rather than anything else. The hoppy bitterness, as I say, about 40 IBUs maximum, 30 is more likely, and then the fruits, you've got a nice juiciness to them, but it develops a little bit more of a kind of oily character the later into the further into the flavour that you go. But yeah, this beer does get does get a big thumbs up from me. I love these New Zealand hopped IPAs actually. So yeah, this one comes across really nicely in my mind. But yeah, I would say that this one overall, another comparison that we should make with this one is that this is a more barley malt orientated New England IPA. So yeah, I like how this one goes together. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. A really solid New England IPA, 6.9%. It goes down really, really nicely actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this one was the Jean Claude Van Gott from Morgondagens Bryggeri in Hisingen in Gothenburg, brewed in collaboration with Automagiskt Bryggeri, Sestervikens Bryggeri, and also Åbergs Brygder as well actually. So yeah, interesting beer this one. I think when you put it together it should be. it's one that I would recommend that you try. I'm not sure how easy this one is to get a hold of now, because I've left this a little bit before reviewing it, but if you can get a hold of this one, definitely do it. It's still in good condition at the moment, so go for it and see how you get on. But yeah, been really cool to have an encounter with the three homebrewers in this one, Automagiskt, Sestervikens and Åbergs Brygder. And always cool to review different beers from Morgondagens as well. I always keep an eye out for what these guys are doing. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from these breweries as well. Yeah, hopefully we can see more from Morgondagens and the three homebrewers at some point later on. But in the meantime, check out all the links. You can check out my social media as well. Let me know some beer recommendations and stuff like this, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Jean Claude Van Gott collaboration beer from Morgondagens in Hisingen. In Hisingen, in Gothenburg. Slanja, skull, cheers, and catch you guys very soon.